Well, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Robbie McHugh and Lisa's on mute. That is Lisa Geruzzi with the EMS
Sorry,
Leadership.
my first day. No, just kidding. It is so great to see everybody. I'm Lisa Geruzzi. I'm the co-host and just excited for day 3. Um, this has been already an extraordinary week of presentations. We've been getting lots of emails from folks, comments in the All Access Pass rooms, and people who are watching the free presentations. Just so many people excited about what they're seeing and having aha moments. So it's just been a delightful, delightful day.
Absolutely, Lisa. And today we had one of our first lunch and learns with Dr. Clayton Kazan, medical director for the LA County Fire Department, and huge fan of emergency. There's no surprise there. His love for this business, this industry started when he was a young kid watching that show. And it was a fun presentation, remarkably fun, especially talking about changes to federal DEA regulations.
Right.
It's any more fun than that. But there are a lot of changes out there, and he laid them all out, as well as how to optimize your supply chain and like really tap into some experts out there that are often overlooked in the world of pharmacy. So we had a really engaged live lunch and learn today. We want to thank the folks that sponsored that. BD, Pyxis MedBank Solutions. We've gone ahead. If you go to emsleadershipsummit.com/exhibit and you click on through to that exhibitor booth, right under the exhibitor booth for Pyxis, you can watch the recording. We've already got the recording up there. There were people in the audience during the live lunch and learn saying, is there going to be a recording? We want to share this with our other folks in the organization. So we posted that as a special bonus. And thanks again to the folks at BD. You may be asking yourself, what the heck is a lunch and learn if this is a virtual event? Well, folks, you can head over and register. There's still time for our next lunch and learn tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, talking about using AI-powered simulation and using the VR Patients platform. We're going to have a whole conversation about their technology and how do we simplify this beyond expensive mannequins and really some simple systems that they've put together. These AI-powered simulations that they put together are really innovative. They can even react based on your tone, and can you de-escalate the situation as if you were to simulate talking to a patient. Pretty brilliant stuff. You can register separately over at the exhibitor hall. Click on through to the VR Patients lunch and learn area, and that's going to go live again tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern.
And you do not want to miss that, folks. If you're even remotely interested, go to the booth and click on their video, because you will just be shocked at least I was. Maybe I'm not a good test, but just watching the video and seeing what they can do. I'm really excited about the lunch and learn tomorrow to learn more. So every booth, as you can see from what Robbie's doing, opens up. So if you click on it, just like you go, if you were at an in-person event, you go to the booth, see what they have to offer. Every one of these booths has information, free information, opportunities to schedule a time, or contact someone within the organization to have a one-on-one conversation. And Robbie, you have done an amazing job just making sure that these are such valuable booths and really highlight our wonderful sponsors and what they're up to. So I really appreciate that, Robbie. You do a magnificent job every year.
Thank you. And certainly our sponsors help us make this whole thing possible. There's still time, folks. If you are interested at all in the rest of this week's sessions, we have an entire lineup with our virtual playbook and schedule. And there is still time to watch day 3 sessions until 8 o'clock tomorrow, when the next lineup of sessions is going to premiere.
Yeah, so you could watch day 3, you can watch day 4 and day 5. And if you're interested in seeing what day 1 and 2 are about, you can purchase an all access pass, which not only gives you lifetime access to all the videos, all the daily debriefs, But also there's some extra bonuses in there, different things that speakers have provided in addition to their presentations. And you can apply for NEMSMA CEU, so for leadership. So consider the All Access Pass. As far as I'm concerned, it is the best investment at a very low cost to a leadership library. You'll have 25 presentations talking about the issues, the biggest issues you're facing, and you'll have that for a lifetime. So as we've been saying all week, we asked our presenters to create their presentations to align with what was in the What Paramedics Want survey from 2025, and they did an extraordinary job. So really, to me, it's really topical with, number one being burnout, but also, leadership and some of the other concerns that people have raised. So anyway, go over to booth 1 in the exhibit hall, and you can see all the different options, including downloading the PDF of the playbook, so you can see what the schedule is, who the presenters are, and plan accordingly.
Well, Lisa, this again is day number 3 of 5 days in a row. We're going to be going live each night at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're simulcasting across the Fire Rescue TV network, the over 400 fire and EMS stations throughout the country.
Hi, everyone.
The EMS One brand with over 350,000 followers, the High Performance EMS page, the EMS Leadership Academy page. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We're all over the place here, and we're taking your questions live. So if you're feeling challenged in your organization, you're feeling, burnout symptoms and what it means to you and what it's looking like in your organization, drop it in the comments. We'd love to take your questions. And I think with that, Lisa, we should bring on our panel, because we've got some folks in the green room that recorded sessions with us, and we're going to go ahead and bring them in.
This is our tradition. Every night of the summit, we have a conversation with as many speakers from that day that can attend. And it's like a mastermind session where people are getting a chance to share ideas and answer questions.
All right. And with that, I'm going to bring in Dr. Carol Cunningham. She is the EMS physician and medical director for the state of Ohio's Public Safety Division. Dr. Cunningham, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. This has been a great experience.
I had an opportunity to hear your keynote about a month ago in Arlington at the NEMSMA in-person conference. Delightful keynote. You're a rock star, and we'll talk a little bit about your love of rock music soon. Joining in from the Cleveland, Ohio area, correct?
Yes, my office is in Columbus, but yeah, I'm in Cleveland where the music is.
Absolutely.
That's right. And our presentation, well, your presentation that I was fortunate enough to be a tiny part of was so extraordinary. And I'm really excited to have you here to talk about the impact of Stoicism on EMS providers. And again, since burnout has made it to number 1, sadly, in the What Paramedics Want survey, I think it's such a timely topic to be focusing on.
Yes, definitely. We have to turn the page and save ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, the cost of holding it all in, the old sort of culture of suck it up, push through, don't let anybody see you sweat, like however you want to say it, is literally killing people.
Yes, definitely. And the article that I cited in the playbook shows that it's not just a problem here in the United States, it's all over the world.
We've been hearing that from other presenters. We had Duncan McConnell here from Australia. We have a presenter from South Africa and South America or South Africa?
South Africa, Mike Emmer.
South Africa, yeah. And, saying that we could just copy and paste what we're saying here in the US and put it to what they're dealing with there. So that is a spot on observation about this is all over. You just wonder how that happens, you know. Why is it that it transcends all these boundaries or, you know, borders? But it's just a phenomenon that I really want to impact.
And I think too, you know, in terms of solutions and how we fix this, that's where I think there's more challenges in the United States because, you know, most nations have either national health care or their EMS providers are getting paid. We have a huge percentage who are volunteers who have no health care benefits. And,
Exactly.
you know, the resources for really specialized care for first responders is deficient for the number of providers we have out there that need help.
You're
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And that was a discussion last night when we were talking about how, you know, the country of Australia has really only 8 ambulance services, and they're making it a priority. Folks in Canada, the different provinces have made it priorities. The United Kingdom has made it a priority, and the psychosocial hazards and the impacts are just not seen as dangerous as physical safety concerns that have been prioritized in the States.
And you know, everybody has a different solution. And as I probably mentioned in my recording, I'm really happy that Ohio, you know, we paved an avenue now where we have a program where you can get help specifically for EMS equivalent to what's provided to physicians and nurses who
Wow.
have these issues. You know, better late than never. It should have happened earlier, but better late than never.
Yeah, that's incredible, and that could be such a great roadmap for other states to follow. You know, I don't know of other states that have that, but you know, if you're having success, I guess is for lack of a better word, but if you're, you know, if people are utilizing that, that would be a great model for other states.
Yeah, you know, at least there's a solution. But again, I think the hurdle, like in the title of my talk, is let's get over the stoicism where you're screaming inside, you know you need help, but you're too stoic to go get what's available.
Yeah. I mean, as an emergency room physician, what do you think, you know, like is in the way? Like what's the barrier to this? I mean, I obviously you've gotten through it. You have other folks that you know that have gone beyond this stoicism character that people play. What do you think the biggest barrier is?
It's the culture of the profession. You know, I'm an emergency physician, but when I was coming along, there weren't that many women in emergency medicine. And a lot of women were just like, oh, I got to be as tough as the guys. And, or if, you know, if I got upset about a case, I would be looked as, or somebody would think, oh, she's weak, she can't handle it, this, that, and the other. So, what would be a natural emotion to some of the tragic things that we see are looked as weaknesses in our profession, both in emergency medicine and EMS, and that should not be. It's okay to cry when it's, you know, when you see something terrible, and you shouldn't just. And when you see someone who is upset, even if you don't say anything, just give them a hug and let them cry on your shoulder, and then offer words of support instead of, you know, oh, let's get away so nobody can see this, you know.
Right. Right. And I don't think it's only EMS, but I think there's such a misunderstanding of emotions in general as human beings. It's like we like these, we want more of those, but we don't want those, right? Or there's
Yeah.
this relationship to sadness or upset that we shouldn't be, right? Like you said, it's a natural thing. It's like if we look at young children, they go through the gamut of feelings, but they don't have thinking that says this one's right, this one's wrong, and they don't have thinking that says I got to fix this, right?
Yeah,
It's
no
just like
filter.
breathing. Yeah, there's just breathing and heartburn, you know, like gas or whatever. And oh, I have emotions. And I think we've unfortunately really created emotions as a, you know, a pathology. and normal emotions. I mean, obviously at the end of the spectrum, perhaps, but this idea that it's abnormal to be upset when something happens. It's just absurd to me, that we try to stay away from that.
And we actually stand on a weaker foundation when you peer in the sleep deprivation and the crazy hours that some of us do. It's a more fragile foundation, and we also need to realize that someone verbally insulting you, that's an injury. It's just whether they physically punched you in the face or not, it adds up. It's cumulative.
Yeah, we talked to Dr. David Daniels about that last night, the psychosocial hazards and the death by 1,000 cuts kind of a thing. I don't remember who brought it up, but someone brought up about how, I think it was Rob Lawrence, was talking about how the studies are showing that burnout to a large degree is from the repetitive situations, not necessarily from these what we would consider. Right. What's that?
High acuity.
Yeah. And having that happen and then have a coworker just not even acknowledge the fact, just that you're hurt emotionally or physically or whatever.
Yeah.
And the reluctance of reporting it.
Definitely. I remember last year we had someone, I think it was Carmen Theobald, who talked about that when someone has a difficult call or they're insulted, that kind of thing, and then they come back to the station or come back to be with the group, and when a leader doesn't sort of have space for that, or they instead they sort of be like, suck it up, or that actually intensifies whatever has happened to people, because now they feel like, not only did I have the first thing happen, but now I have a leader who's not supporting me, and that just can so exacerbate everything.
Yeah, and you can almost tell you're in a bad environment when someone either commits suicide or tries to commit suicide, and then the people who worked around them they were kind of stressed out, and I was just like, well, if you knew that, why didn't you help them?
Right.
It's why did you let them slide down the mudslide and into a grave without reaching out and giving some help?
And we've seen a lot of states begin to recognize that, at least here in New York State. They've been investing a lot of money into, there's a program called CARES Up, and it's a framework for providing mental health support and resiliency for first responders that really came out of the pandemic, and funding direct to organizations to implement peer support groups, to educate their providers about modern ways to deal with the stress and the trauma that people see. And so it's really encouraging to see some states take initiative and you want to tell me where your priorities are. Well, show me your budget, and I'll tell you where your priorities are. So it's good to see that happening.
And a truly effective leader. I mean, it's great if your state has resources, but your leadership also has to have an open door policy, be able to keep things in confidence within reason, where somebody comes in and say, I'm going to kill myself, obviously get them into some help, but don't be a leader, but be their friend. And they don't have to be your best friend, but be somebody that they can talk to in confidence, and know that you're not going to like write a report and get rid of them.
Yeah,
right.
You're going to do everything you can to try and not only save their career, but save that person. And also, I think too, it's important for people to know that that resource that's available may not be the right solution for them. For me personally, I'm probably known for it. When you see child abuse, it's terrible. I know what works for me. The only thing that works for me is put me on the stand, because I don't want that person, the whoever's defending them, to read the medical chart. I'm going to tell them exactly what it was with that emotion that I can't bury, because that is the truth of the situation. Then I feel like I've done justice. And I can let it
That
go.
makes sense.
Yeah, I'd rather for me, and again, that's just me personally. I'd rather get on the stand than to sit in the therapist's office for that particular job stress.
Yeah.
And then other job stresses, I collect teddy bears. I'll come home and talk to my teddy bear. I think everybody should have one.
Or a nice dog.
Yeah.
Or cat.
Well, I'm allergic to animals. Yeah. If I had a dog, I'd be on a ventilator. But, you got to have a source of unconditional universal love and sanity. They're pretty sane.
Absolutely. I'd like to bring in our two other panelists, Dr. Cunningham as well. We have Lieutenant David Dashinger and Bonnie Rumley, licensed social worker and EMT. And there we go. Welcome, Bonnie and David. Thanks for being back with us here again at the EMS Leadership Summit.
Good to be back.
Thanks for having us.
We were thrilled to record a session. I think it was the most prepared for session I've ever seen. We had, I think, 10 pages of notes and frameworks and ideas, and you were all just like throwing out strategies and tactics and what's working today. The two of you and your third co-author of your book, Helping the Helpers, together you have been doing the Responder Resiliency podcast and have experience with helping people, culturally competent clinicians, helping people deal with the stressors of these jobs. So, Bonnie, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you've been hearing in the green room, and then
Sure.
David about these the stressors and the stoicism and how people are dealing with it.
Well, you probably see my pen going here in the background, but when I listened to the three of you talking, there were so many thoughts that I had that came up. I think number one is that first responders are scared of emotions generally. And I think that fear is what breeds some of the avoidance of their own emotions or avoiding others' emotions. And we see that with leadership coming down. If leaders don't know how to face emotions and process them and cope with them, how can they hold that space for the people under them? So it's really, really important for leaders to model those behaviors. I think of it as mom and dad at home when we're kids, or whoever raises you. They're modeling the behavior that we need to follow. And in leadership, I view it the same way. And so what we need to get first responders and leadership in particular to understand is that feeling your emotions is not going to take your rational brain away. It's actually going to make space for you to access your rational brain. So if we recognize the feeling, acknowledge it, or look at the emotion, acknowledge it, talk about it, then we can move through it to the other side. And now I can get back to my rational brain, which needs to focus on my skills right now.
I think that's a great strategy and sounded for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're not pushing up against it, afraid of it, I tell people it's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater, right? It's like, it's there. The emotion's there. If you don't resist it, it's energy moving through you. But the more you're holding it down, trying to like keep this beach ball underwater, it just makes it more present. So I love what you said there, Monty. Thank you.
And yeah, David, what are you hearing in this conversation? And
well, a lot of good stuff. I'm reminded of something our friend and contributor to the book, Dr. Tracy Hemanowski, talks about. It's the concept of hardware and software. So if we think of the equipment that we provide our providers in order to do the job, we're really good, right? We get all the hardware taken care of. If we're doing our job right, we get the rigs outfitted. We have them properly trained, properly uniformed, and we're good at addressing that. What sometimes we're not so good at is the software piece, and that's what's up here, right? The mental, emotional, spiritual piece of this. That's where we're not. It's unfamiliar territory, uncomfortable territory sometimes, and that's where the language. Sometimes the language fails us because we're not used to talking about it, especially as leaders. We really have to become educated in how do we have a kind of a casual conversation with somebody who may be struggling and have the right words so that we're not putting them on the defensive, but at the same time able to get them to the resources they need. Another concept that Dr. Hemanowski talks about, and it's in our book on the chapter on stress and burnout, is that you get three personalities or three facets of a person that can show up on a call. And the first one is the professional one. That's the responder in the uniform with the badge. It's got the tools that mitigates the emergency, that takes care of the problem. They get the job done. They're trained. And at the same time, you get like the self that's actually just a human being in the world, right? They're a father, a friend, a spouse, a softball coach, but they're carrying the trauma of all of those calls they've done over years or decades. And then at the same time, you get the historic self, and that is, think of the child that's part of this, had these childhood experiences, sometimes adverse. We find first responders tend to have more adverse childhood experiences than the general population. They're carrying that. Maybe they were a soldier who saw, deployment or action. They're carrying some trauma from that. And so they're carrying, wounds from perhaps childhood all the way up through today. So when we ask them, how are you doing? And they respond, I'm fine. That might be just the professional self, right? They're able to access that. But the other two may be struggling and unraveling behind the scenes. And those are the two facets that can be addressed with, more effective interventions, peer support, therapy, EMDR, whatever that looks like.
And I'm curious to hear maybe some stories about how you each cope and deal with the stressors. I know, Dr. Cunningham, you have a really, I think, fun and interesting story when it comes to like refilling your cup and staying recharged and trying to balance those scales of daily stresses and tragedies that you're witnessing with, how you find more joy in life. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Well, for me, I haven't changed my circle of friends. Like the same people I hang out with are the people who are standing next to me in my kindergarten picture. They know Carol. I got to be someplace where I can just be Carol. And then, music to me is vitamin M. I call it a central nutrient that refreshes the heart, mind, and soul. Whether it's playing music or going to a show, that helps. And if I have a headache, I don't take Tylenol or Motrin. I know I need a massage just to get all the tension out. It's the best. So, no medicine, it doesn't involve any narcotics or alcohol or anything like that. But nothing's more valuable than a good friend and somebody that you can hang out with. My best friend, Bob, he's a guy, and he says I understand men better than anybody else, but man, he's a rock. We've been best friends since we were 12. So he knows everything.
And Dr. Cunningham, you're also on the board for the Cleveland Rock Museum.
Yeah, I'm on the board of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Museum, and I'm also on the host committee for the Tri-C Jazz Festival. And my best friend, who's a PhD chemical engineer, is an incredible drummer. He's my drummer, and we paid for school playing in bands. And before I went to medicine, I was a disc jockey at Cleveland's #2 rock and roll station. So I hang out with musicians too. More than physicians on my time off.
That's great. That's great. And I love that. And I think, what Robbie's pointing to, what you're pointing to is, this can't be it, right? This can't, for anyone really, that if all they have is their job, it can be very lopsided, and you need that light and that space to be yourself.
Yes, we all love our professions, but you should never let your profession replace your persona.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Sound advice, but Bonnie, yeah.
Yeah, so I think for me, I have sort of two buckets, and I pay a lot of attention to this, obviously learning from the clients that sit before me in my office and knowing what it is to crash and burn. And I know that if I don't take care of myself, I can't be of service to anyone else. And that's not my goal. My goal is to stay in service just like the rig, just like the life pack. So I do a lot individually, personally, to fill my bucket. There's family time, there's Reiki. I like to do Pilates. I like to do a spinning class to get a little dopamine here and there. I love kayaking and skiing. So there are some of those activities that I do to individually fill my bucket. But then I'm also a very social person. So I love to get together with friends. I love to talk. I love to communicate with people. But I have to know inside myself when I need each one of those things. You know, if you ask me after seeing 7 trauma clients back to back, then I'm going to need some transition time. And that's probably when I'm going to come home and shower and just want some peace. Right? Maybe on a Friday, I feel like, you know what? Time to get to the weekend, time to see a friend, time to go home to the family, make dinner. So I have to be very intentional about what I choose and how I choose to fill my bucket. Because ultimately, when I show up here at the office or when I used to show up on the ambulance, I wanted to be my best self. And I think if we all have that goal of being our best self and understanding what those obstacles are, then we could really address the obstacles in a different way.
Agreed. That's and there is that self-awareness that you're pointing to, and I think that when people give themselves a breath to slow down and to
Right.
really ask, like, it's okay to need something right now, right? It's okay to, take a breath or sit with a friend or whatever you need, and it's kind of a cliche statement now, like you have to put your own oxygen mask on, right? You put it on yourself first. But it is so true, that you have to know what you need and be willing to give it to yourself.
Right.
Yeah, David, would love to hear, what strategies that you've tapped into or try to find that balance of
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
stress.
Well, I'm reflecting back on, my career when I would finish up a shift and I'd, often work, well, most of the time 24s, sometimes 48s. And what I found was important is on that ride home to do something that's going to help ease the transition back into the real world, right? So coming off of that, high adrenaline, saving the world, rescue hero, handling all kinds of, death and destruction back into like the real world. But also because there's so much heaviness that we encounter on the job. I found myself listening to comedy in the car, and that was my go-to as a way to kind of de-escalate, the intensity, the adrenaline rush, the cortisol, but also kind of bring myself down, put a little the lighter side of life rather than dwelling on the heaviness. Along those lines, I think we get so fixated on all the bad things we see and the fact that there's, we encounter a lot of people who are injured, sick, perhaps dying, that it really helps to look at things like nature that give us the inspiration that, it's not all death and destruction out there. Life force is pretty strong. Like I have a tree out my backyard that's a mulberry tree, and that thing is so resilient. It's growing all the time. It's putting out berries all the time. And that is my role model for like, this is life, right? Life is going on. Even though we're out there doing these calls, puppies are being born, people are out there enjoying ice cream. There's good stuff happening in the world. We need to kind of be reminded. Nature does an amazing job of that. So I would say those two things have worked for me personally. And then anecdotally, because we get to talk to so many people on the podcast, there are no or low cost things out there that leaders can consider incorporating. Bonnie and I just spoke with a couple of people in EMS in Westchester County who have a program where they bring dogs and coffee together and game playing for volunteer EMS personnel. And so it's just a fun time where, of course, the dogs are great. They get to socialize. They're not talking about work. They're not focused on EMS. They're just there to be human beings enjoying themselves. So you have to be creative. And I think that was a very creative solution to burnout that we heard about recently.
Yeah, there was I think it was our first or second summit. We had a guy on from Canada who instituted having a therapy dog, and it would go around to various squads or wherever to especially after they knew that they had a high acuity event, or if, there was something upsetting that they knew about, they would go and make the rounds. And they were studying that to see, like, it's a nice idea, but is it making a difference? And dogs always make me happy, so I can't imagine that it would
Yeah,
that it
with
wouldn't
coffee, right?
work. But
Well, the other thing we always hear is we don't have the money for that. We don't have the budgeting for that. But kindness and caring about each other costs us absolutely nothing. So why can't we look at it that way? Yeah, I may not have the money to put a huge therapy room or to bring you a therapist every week, but what I was starting to do right when I was leader is I was marrying all the things I was learning from being a trauma therapist and learning from the podcast. And when I came to my shift, I would sit and I would check out the crew before we went to check out the gear. And to me, that is the most important thing. I can have all the greatest gear, everything's fully charged, but if the person who's using it didn't sleep last night, or is going through a breakup, or drank too much, and maybe they're exhausted today, those are the things I should be paying attention more to than the equipment. And I think we have this kind of mindset or measurements that we use, right? The equipment or the shiny rigs, and all of it's fun. We love all of it. But we don't pay the same attention to our people. So anybody listening, it doesn't cost anything to care. So I challenge you to care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think as many agencies are entering budgeting season, as much as there are free and no cost things that you can do, just practicing kindness can go so long. Practicing what Lisa and I talk about is listening. How do we slow our own selves down to be more in the moment when we're constantly getting this barrage of everyone coming at you from every direction? I mean, I am by far not perfect at that, and I'm not claiming perfection, but if we can at least practice more of that. But as we come into budget season, one of what we've talked about before is, we've got these equipment line items in our budget. We've got vehicle maintenance in our budget. We've got facilities maintenance in our budget, equipment maintenance, monitor maintenance. Where's our people maintenance? So if people make up 90% of our budgets, how can we not have a budget line item to invest into our most protected assets, you could call them? And so I think as leaders, we all need to make a better case for how if we invest a little bit into people, we'll have a much bigger return through retention and just keeping that person and creating an environment that people actually want to be around. So.
Well, people talk a lot about recruitment and retention, as you're saying. And what we need to be better at, I think, in EMS is collecting our data and going to the officials, going to the admin in the hospital, going to the first selectman or the board and saying, look, this is what we could save the town, the city, the hospital, if we front load this and do more prevention for our people. Yeah. We're not good at data. We're very good at complaining and then being upset that nothing changes. Right. But we have to be creative and seek out that data. And if it doesn't exist anywhere when you do a search, how can we get the data? Because those are the kinds of things that the decision makers are really looking for.
Yeah, and we brought it up last night. The American Ambulance Association Newton 360 survey is done each year in our industry. In the last 4 years, that number went for turnover costs and estimates from $9,000 per person to $55,000 per person lost. And you take the average turnover of 25%, upwards of 38% in some organizations, and you do the math, number of people times 0.25 times 55,000, there is a massive amount of hemorrhaging happening financially. And let's just take, 5% of that number and try to invest it back into our people, into strategies to keeping our people. So yeah, I could get on that soapbox all night long.
And I just think it's worth saying that, I think as leaders, we have to stop looking for the right people, right? We need to create organizations, cultures, environments where people can thrive. And that's not happening. And this isn't an individual problem, and it's a systems problem. And we keep looking, not we as this group, but people keep looking for individual solutions. Like, yeah, it's great to have therapy dogs, it's great to do those things, but that's like putting a band-aid on a hemorrhage, right? Like we have to look at this from both sides. The systems approach, this is a systems problem. We don't have the kind of results like the what paramedics want survey of that many people talking about burnout as an individual problem. This is the exhaust from a carbon engine, and we keep looking to fix the exhaust. We got to go upstream, and we have to see what are we doing to our, that's creating this result year after year after year in country after country. It's crazy making to me that we still talk about this. Not us, I'm talking about by and large. When you look at things, it's an individual problem. It's not. Nobody can convince me this is a paradigm. This is a systems problem.
Yeah.
Talk about soapboxes. Sorry, everybody.
No need to apologize. It's the truth. The truth always sets one free.
Pisses us off first, but it sets us free, right?
One thing I want to mention, everybody's sharing, what strategies they've discovered for themselves. For me, it was about 8 years ago in grad school at Case Western University, and I was flying out to Cleveland once a month, and I love that city, Carol. And I had the chance to study under some great minds, Melvin Smith, Richard Boyatzis, and the folks that have studied and researched emotional intelligence for over 50 years, and to sit in their classrooms. And one thing that stuck out to me was this model I wanted to bring up here, is this idea of they call it the sacrifice syndrome. And you have a bunch of like mid-career professionals in this master's degree program, and they said they've been studying emotional intelligence and where professionals reach their you could call it a peak or an area of sacrifice, where they're constantly in crisis mode. They've got a lot of threats. They're feeling very ineffective, and they want to know the antidote. And the social science and the studies that they've been, the psychology behind it, their research shows that it's you must have like resonant relationships. You must use areas of emotional intelligence to create those relationships, to have mindfulness, hope, compassion. Scott Moore did a whole session on hope and at being a leader's best tool, and their best 4-letter word now, their favorite 4-letter word is hope, as a strategy to combat the scales of feeling the constant barrage of threat. And you must begin to balance that for yourself. And I even found like my own cadence of this was the last 5 months worth of work for Lisa and I, and like we've been coming down to the wire, and I try to build a cadence in of a renewal cycle and doing some type of vacation getaway. Like I'm constantly having these sprints of a lot of work matched up with a period of intense rest and reset, although our vacations tend to turn into more more activity than I expected. But I love this model, and I wanted to share it. It's in the Resonant Relationship book. So many people got so much out of just learning more about a strategy that could help balance the scales there. So I figured I'd.
That's great. Well, I also think, one of the things you're pointing to is just, sort of seeing using the noticer mind, right? We all have the ability to notice what's happening when we can like slow down. And that's what I heard you say is like, notice like, oh, these habits of thought, of being caught up in this like, cycle of sacrificing, or cycle of being a hero. Sometimes people get into, or a cycle of ain't it awful, or whatever thinking cycles we get in. But what we don't always know is that we can notice that and then choose something else. And I think sometimes people innocently are just waiting for that to pass, which that will work too. But there is this idea of, at least what's been really helpful to me is to be the noticer of whatever thinking or emotion that I'm having, and then being like, huh, well, that's not true, or I don't have to believe everything I think, right? So that's what I heard. Part of what I heard in what you were saying, Robbie, is just like being able to notice something, not just be in it, like circling the drain kind of a thing.
And I think it takes intentional action, right? If we're just the victim of our thoughts and circumstance, and we're holding on to all those thought patterns, as opposed to trying to put in practices, structures, systems that can help us, create a little time, distance, and shielding, some separation from these things, it can create a different result. Yeah.
I also think it's easier for the individuals to blame the system, or to blame their job or blame the volunteer place where they are. And, we can do that all the time, but that doesn't create change. So it really behooves you to think about, what am I unhappy with, and how can I work to either accept it or change it in my own way? And maybe it's changing it on your own shift or with your own crew. And if that makes the job easier and your day better and puts people in a better place to do this job, why wouldn't you do that? No one's coming in to save everybody. We're all a piece of that pie. So people need to also recognize, acknowledge, and take on their piece of the pie.
I love that idea of responsibility. And I've heard Lisa before talk about 100% responsibility. It's like, imagine if it wasn't just 50-50, if it was like, I'm 100% responsible for the outcome, not from a blame or shame, but like, that gives me the power in the situation to actually affect change, instead of being the victim of the system and like, oh, I did my half. I showed up, they didn't. And it puts us at a loss of any type of power, disempowerment.
Yeah, we're very much focused on control. I think we were talking about this the last live stream, and that's, we're taught to control things, the airway, the bleeding, but the only thing in reality we can control is how we choose to think, right? The things we allow to kind of happen in our heads. So ultimately we are, that's our power. That's a domain we can control. And that's where, even though we're wired for negativity, we can choose to replace some of those negative beliefs, negative thoughts with something positive. And that does take intentionality. It takes effort. It takes, commitment to do it. But whether you're, a rookie or, agency leader, all of us can do that. It doesn't require any special, rank or certification. It's sort of a human skill that we all could benefit from.
And you don't have to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. It's like, I think it was last night we talked about, well, what if you were 3 to 5% more positive, right? It doesn't have to be, you become this, Pollyanna, but like, okay, what if I was just, even if it wasn't positive, but if it was like 3 to 5% more accepting, or 3 to 5% more willing to not know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where a lot of times where we get into, as humans, we get really stuck, is that we're so freaking sure we know everything. We know what that person's thinking. We know what that's going to be like. We're trying to control the future. We know, like, and gosh, we just don't. And if we could be a little bit less sure of our what we know emotionally. I'm not talking about, when you're doing CPR or, trying to intubate somebody. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these, interactions with other humans, as if we weren't so busy projecting and being sure of what we know, we might end up being more curious and learn something.
Yeah. I love that idea of a little bit of progress over time can compound, right? It's like, what are the things that we could just be willing to try to be a little bit better at, and not be perfect at, but just be a little bit better. 1 degree change over 100 days, you might be setting yourself in a different direction. I took this on back in February. I did a little self-challenge, and I'm like, the Heart Association had a 1,000 push-up challenge. And then when I'm like, 1,000 push-ups, it seems like a lot. And I broke it down by day. And
it is a lot.
And I'm like, if I do 12 push-ups in the morning, 12 for lunch, 12 for dinner over 28 days. Like that's almost 1,000 push-ups. And I started to break it down to little bite-sized chunks. And my first push-ups, they were awful. Like, but over time, it just got easier. It became a new habit. It became something I just incorporated into my day, to the point where after February, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll just go down to 30 a day. And then, so I'm like, after a year, it's going to be over 12,000 push-ups. So I've been keeping it up since February, but it's like being willing to not be perfect at it and try a little bit can compound over time, and any of these strategies.
Yeah.
And a partially charged battery is so much better than one that's dead. You know, a little bit. And you don't have to follow the herd.
Sure.
You know, you can do your push-ups. You give me a bass guitar and I'm happy.
Everybody's got to find their groove.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I guess as we close up this panel, we're reaching the top of the hour. I'd love to hear some just final remarks, your thoughts on the week, the session that you put together, your thoughts on just this, what we've talked about tonight, any message you have for leaders out there that might be watching, that just maybe a little message of hope for folks. We'd love to start with Dr. Cunningham, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I tell my residents, everybody is somebody's baby. So you don't have to be related, but treat everybody like you would expect to treat your own family member. And just remember that, your close friends will dance with you. A lot of people dance with you in the sunshine, but your friends will dance with you in the rain. And, just don't be afraid to lean on them. Don't be afraid to cry. And take a dose of vitamin M every day. Whether it's a happy song or a sad song. And I know you guys have dogs and therapy dogs, but teddy bears don't cost a thing. You don't have to feed them. You don't have to poop on the carpet. And they're all... No, really. I give teddy bears I put them in when friends have relatives that die. I'll make sure there's a teddy bear in the flowers that I send. It's okay to be a kid and go back to your childhood and curl up with somebody who loves you.
Absolutely.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. Bonnie?
Yeah, so it's not lost on me that we're preaching to the choir here, right? The choir are the ones that show up and they want this knowledge. They're thirsty for it. And so we're grateful because the choir needs to sing and it needs to move on. But, I think leaders, just as much as individual first responders, paramedics, EMTs, leaders also need support from each other. Those of us who are leaders or have been, it's very, very lonely, and you hold so much inside. And I think there's a lot of fear of judgment or just fear of people thinking you're not knowing what you're doing if you're talking to them about it. But I think any leader listening, you should have your own mentor or your own peer who can be there for you, who you can bounce things off of, who you can be vulnerable with. Because to hold all of that in and to try to be the best for everybody, it's not possible. You're asking yourself to do something very superhuman. And I'm proud to say that in Connecticut, the Connecticut EMS Advisory Board, they actually just put into place a plan to have a leadership peer-to-peer support group. And the topics have been chosen. And the thought is over time to get more and more leaders to give each other that peer support rather than the blame game or judging, because we're recognizing that the leaders are the ones setting the tone. Yeah. So really proud about that. And I think we need to do a lot more for our leaders and our boots on the ground.
I love that idea. We've heard from leaders across the country and across the world, and they feel this sense of isolation and that they're so alone and that it just must be their organization. And then when they talk to people in different geographic areas and like, oh, you're dealing with that exact same issue. It's like, oh, it's not just me. It becomes much more of a relief, I think, for people to realize that they're universal issues that we're all dealing with. and systems.
Yeah.
We're dealing with systems that were just handed off to us,
Right.
and no manual, no right way to do it. And people are like, all right, good luck. Here's a clinical course. Here's medical school. Here's a paramedic curriculum. Good luck running an organization. Don't run it into the ground. I think everybody's trying to do the best they can with the resources.
Yeah.
And our whole goal here is to just try to bring new ideas and new resources and let people run with it. So I love that idea, Bonnie. David.
I would say that we probably touched on this during our presentation, but whether we're a leader or boots on the ground, that we can be optimal at our job if we allow ourselves to ask for help and, dump our emotional buckets of the sludge that we accumulate over years or decades of doing this, that it's not going to take away our edge. It's not going to take away our acuity of doing this job. It's going to actually help us, because when we clear away some of that emotional residue that's coming up for us, then we can access the parts of our brain that we really need to do this job well. And so I think part of the burnout equation is just to kind of clear the slate when we've been carrying, trauma from childhood or perhaps military, certainly from doing this job over a period of time. Once we can start to clear some of that out, create some space, that we can be better in every respect, not only doing the job, but as fathers, husbands, spouses, friends, and coworkers.
That's great. Great advice, David. And Bonnie, thank you for joining us tonight, and congrats on the book, Helping the Helpers. Folks, make sure you check that out and get your copy. Dr. Carol Cunningham, thank you so much. You are a delight. I appreciate you putting together your session as well that we're featuring this week. And thanks again for all being here.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you for everything you're doing, Lisa and Robbie. Great work. We'll be here anytime you need us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We love having you all, and we love these conversations because it just helps us, like we said already, like Robbie was saying, it just helps us to remember we have a team of people who are all working in the same direction. We just need to get together sometimes and realize we're not alone.
Yeah.
And leaders are human.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be human.
definitely.
Great
Thank
final
you.
words. All right, folks, you guys have a good evening. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for being here with our live panel. Lisa, day three's lineup, I mean, we had a chance to hear from David, from Bonnie, from Dr. Carol Cunningham. We had some other great sessions. Your interview with Dr. Megan McElhern from Canada, the Wayfound Group, and what she's doing as a clinical psychologist and working with first responders, and the research they've been doing on different programs has been fantastic. So I love whenever we have an opportunity to feature her sessions and the energy from.
Yeah. And this session is all about embedding mental health professionals in fire camps with firefighters in the wild. And it's really amazing. And her being like looking forward to this being something that maybe, you could do with EMS. So it was an incredible session. And then also my session with Rob Cook, I interviewed him. He's a returning speaker. His military experience with being in special forces, now coaching leaders from around the world, and really bringing what he's learned in, since being a leader in military, and really this understanding of PTSD and how to heal from that, like firsthand experience. And it was wonderful. Very great conversation.
And another great leader we had a chance to connect with and feature at this summit was Tracy Loscar, going from very urban New Jersey, high volume agency, and retiring out to the Matsu province of very rural Alaska.
Yeah.
And,
rural.
thinking their organization's too small or they're dealing with rural issues. Tracy's got a dose of hope for you, because she uses scarcity as a strategy and talks about how they screen for providers and how they really their hiring process. How do they pre-plan for austerity and for the natural disasters that may hit, and they use it to their advantage. And she put together a masterclass of a session, which was exciting I had a glimmer, a preview of it at the NEMSMA conference that I attended, and she had a chance with some more time to go a bit deeper into to do it justice.
Yeah, it's a really great presentation. And then also we had, well, the lunch and learn, which you already talked about.
Yeah, and
And
Clayton Kazan did a fantastic job talking about the last decade of leveraging hospital pharmacies and helping them, who are really the experts in the world of supply chain and medication management. So.
yeah. And tomorrow we have another really great lineup of presentations. Our presentation, I hate to brag, but I will, our presentation on this idea of, becoming aware of your communication and how it's impacting the people around you, and how do you become more masterful with your communication. And this goes far beyond texting or emailing or talking or whatever, but really the context for communication. And it was fun talking about that. And we have a free assessment if you go to our booth or go to the website that Robbie has on the screen. You can get a sense of where you are. It's a snapshot. It's not a sentence like, oh, this is who you are. But no, it's just a snapshot to kind of see, your strengths in communication, but also how are your strengths perhaps holding you back. So I'm looking forward to getting feedback from people. This is a brand new presentation. We haven't done this one before. So I'm really excited to hear what people think about it.
And all this is on the heels of us launching. We've had our mini course that we've rebranded the Essential Communication course, and we're releasing after the summit here the Advanced Communication course. So folks sign up at emsleadershipacademy.com/assessment. They can get their snapshot profile and some recommendations on potential blind spots and next steps. So we'd love. We've had over 1,000 people take the Essential course and say they've gotten. They see their family members differently. They see situations differently. And honestly, it just blew us away that we were able to convey that our training into a asynchronous short training. So we're excited about the advanced course.
Absolutely. And then we have Mike Emmerich tomorrow talking about vicarious transformation. And then one of my personal favorites, Dr. Molly McCann Pinio. This is a very exciting workshop on research that they're doing, putting responders first. Mm-hmm. And it's called the Project First Trial. And they're taking on this whole idea of burnout and researching how to impact it. And they're expanding a previous research study. It was very small, and they're expanding it to see, with larger numbers if it's effective. It's really great. They got funding for 5 years, and so they actually in their booth. I don't know if it's there. I know you can contact them. She gives the information in the conversation about how to contact them. It's limited to Westchester County, the counties around New York City, and then some counties in Texas. So be sure to check that out because they're looking.
Yeah, a lot of research. The Northwell Health Department of Emergency Medicine, and they've been studying the effects of female first responders, and so there's a lot of great research out there from Northwell Health and their system.
Absolutely.
We had an interview. I had an interview with Mick Gunderson. We had a whole conversation on quality management. He is not only the International Journal of Paramedicine editor, he is also the EMS Quality Academy guru, and he just blows my mind every time he talks about quality management and how we can use different frameworks to create change, as well as some of the AI tools that are coming into the lens here for quality managers. And always welcoming back Duncan McConnell, who's joined us. He's been joining in live. I know he's in the audience, usually watching live in Australia. It's always great to have Duncan both here live for a conversation and then have him put together a session. I know he had some comments here about leaders stepping forward, saying, "Hold my beer, and we're going to change things." So
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it takes to change the culture, is for somebody to just demonstrate and be the first one that demonstrates change is possible. So
Yeah, Dr. Daniels last night said everything looks impossible until it doesn't, until somebody does it, right? And I think that's what Duncan has been showing, not just saying in the chat, but actually being a demonstration of in all the work that he's done. And it's really impressive to sit down and talk to him about his wealth of knowledge and lived experience in Mongolia and various places where he's making a difference. He's really stepping up and now working on his PhD, which is amazing. So I'm sure he'll join us for the daily debrief tomorrow.
Yeah. Last chance for folks to register for our virtual lunch and learn tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a conversation about using AI to transform EMS simulation training, getting beyond expensive mannequins. And it's really remarkable how fast technology is moving in that space, where if you just have a web browser, you can do a simulation or be assigned in a simulation, and you can narrate it. You have a difficult call. You want to see how your providers are going to react and the learning objectives. You can use their scenarios to tweak those scenarios. It's remarkable. And if you want to take it to the next level with VR glasses, $300 for a pair of Meta glasses that are going to create an augmented reality or full virtual reality, take that simulation right wherever somebody is using it. So excited for that live conversation tomorrow. For the first 100 people that register and join, we're going to offer a $20 Grubhub meal voucher. So
yeah, $20, man. That's pretty cool.
So folks can head on over to the virtual exhibit hall. That's where you access the pre-sessions. If you want to upgrade to an all access pass, you get lifetime access to all of these sessions, not just the limited daily release sessions that we're doing this week. You also get NEMSMA approved continuing education credits and some MP3s to listen on the go. So you really start to develop this leadership library. And Lisa, this has been our 7th year together. We've done 8 total summits, and we've had over 20,000 people from 44 different countries, which just blows my mind when I think about it.
How many hundreds of interviews?
Yeah,
we've done
over 200 interviews, and had a chance to meet some of the most remarkable people, which is the best part that I most appreciate. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I also want to just say again, thank you to our sponsors. You said it at the top of the hour. We could not do this without our sponsors. And we really encourage people to go check out what they have to offer. We are indebted to them because we get to do this for free. The tickets are free for people. The passes are free, and the sponsors are why we can do that.
Absolutely. Thanks to our friends over at EMS One. Thanks to NEMSMA, National EMS Management Association, and International Journal of Paramedicine. Other associations, NAMI HP, National Association of Mobile Integrated Healthcare Professionals, the Responder Safety Institute, that's the respondersafety.com, and the nonprofit ERSI that is just pumping out tons of great training programs to help responders be safe, and really appreciate the Emergency Responder Safety Institute for all of the work that they've done, applying for federal grants, developing traffic incident management certificate programs for EMS, and check out their booth. Resuscitation Academy, Citizen CPR Foundation, what better thing can we do as leaders but create an organization that is focused on creating more survivors of sudden cardiac arrest, and 10 steps to improving the sudden cardiac arrest survivability. So those two great organizations came together for just a booth full of resources, and then a whole bonus interview from a prior Summit here talking about challenging sudden death. So love these different organizations. Shout out to Martin at Fire Rescue TV and his digital signage brilliance. He is so excited about the launch of Fire Rescue TV and their 24/7 streaming platform now as well. But if you are interested in digital signage, be sure to check out Fire Rescue TV. Our friends over at Ninth Brain creating the system of systems approach to organizing your complex systems and accreditation and learning management systems, to our friends at Phase, the patient handling and safety experts, which have a really adorable video here of an 8-year-old moving a 250-pound patient over on this sliding the Bender's transfer sheet, which I think is just so cute, but it's also remarkable. And let's save the back of our providers. Request a free field trial. You could reach out to Jimmy Gilly. He will set you up reach out on LinkedIn, or just click through and get your department a no risk trial. That Bender lift device, I've seen people, never want to lift under the armpits again. It's putting handles on humans. You get to wrap it around the patient. The patient feels better, less chance of injury. You get about 20 plus different handles to grip onto at a safe distance. And it just makes lifting and moving better for everyone. And they put together an entire course about how to avoid lifting and do sliding and different techniques that should be in standard curriculum. And they've done a great job creating some content there for EMS agencies. If you wanted to just license their patient handling and safety expert training, it's a great onboarding tool. My agency uses it. I so appreciate the work that went into them developing that. So,
and you get a free 30-day trial of the putting handles on humans. I love that saying. So you can sign up for that right there at the booth.
Yeah, when people get their hands on it, like it sells itself, because they're like, oh my God, why did I not think about that? Why? I never want to do that. I never want to pick somebody up again from their armpits.
Yeah, I never want to do that. Not even once.
Quick shout out to AIM Software and Systems Services.
Yeah, new sponsor this year.
New sponsor. If you want to get a analysis of your billing and assessment, they're going to do a one-on-one assessment. You can click on through, and really, because there's just things we don't know. And when you get the experts in there to look at your processes, there's a chance that they can find how to decrease denials. You could take a look at their billing software. They've got EPCR CAD software. They have billing software designed to reduce claim rejections and to improve revenue. So shout out to them. Check out the case study of one large EMS service in one county that brought the billing services in, and how they leveraged AIM software to do all of their billing. And it's compatible with every EPCR system. So
that's great.
All right, Lisa, I think last but not least is our booth. That's the communication assessment. We talked about that. We've got some testimonials of people that have taken our different programs, that have taken the essential communication course. We've got the advanced communication course up here with information on that as it launches. And the
video is really good too.
Oh, yeah.
I just recently watched that again. It's one of our Q&A videos where someone asked about dealing with conflict. Who loves dealing with conflict? Literally no one. So it's a video where we answered a question that somebody had sent in to us.
Yeah. Well, my friend, just again, folks, spread the word. EMSLeadershipSummit.com. If you want to see the full playbook, you can go to EMSLeadershipSummit.com/playbook and see the whole. We've got 22 pages. You've got Dr. Carol Cunningham did a great article in here about stoicism and a model that she shares. And we've got content in here from Dr. David Daniels. And we had one more.
Molly
McKinney.
Yeah, she talks in there about the project first. Actually, in there, it talks about how you can get involved, I believe. Okay. And then we have an article in there too about the phases of mastery. So
There we
Yeah,
go.
it's a really valuable playbook. I mean, one of the most we've ever, I mean, we've always tried to get value in there, but we really had a lot of great articles and great info from some of our sponsors.
Yeah.
So you can either get a PDF of it, or if you go emsleadershipsummit.com/playbook, you'll get not only that, but the free ticket as well.
There we go.
There
All
we
right,
are.
my friend, we are done with day 3 for us in our daily debrief. Folks still have up until 8 a.m. to watch those sessions. So go to the exhibit hall, check them out. And we're going to be back here tomorrow for day number 4's lineup and our daily debrief.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Folks, have a good night.
Bye.